I put up here what it should look like, and I moved your due date. So check this out.
Bell Middle School's STEM program started with a group of teachers dedicated to transforming the task. Since then, they have sent projects to the International Space Station, won competitions that demonstrate critical thinking and creativity statewide, and created local partnerships to support teaching and learning through inquiry-based projects. Jason Haberkorn has been a project-based teacher at Bell for the past 5 years. In his class, 8th grade students are applying learning through cross-content connections and transform tasks. They are design engineers creating replica buildings for model train railroading. These models are designed and built to scale and must be historically accurate to the San Francisco Gold Rush of 1849.
So Jason, thank you so much for having us in your class.
Sure.
It was a lot different than I remember 8th grade American history.
Yeah.
But I also noticed you incorporated elements of math and engineering along with the social studies content. Can you tell me about planning for that type of instruction?
Well, you look at the CAP document and see what everything is everything that they have to do in 8th grade. And then from there you start to say, okay, this is the level of math that I know that they're doing. A lot of our kids in STEM are in algebra, so let's incorporate algebra into this. And not that I'm teaching algebra, but they're using what they're learning in class. You know, with their math teacher, they're using it in my class. They're using what they've learned in engineering in my class. So I'm not necessarily teaching all of those things. I'm teaching the American history piece, but I'm relying on what they've learned in other classes in math or in engineering or in language arts, because they have to do the technical writing with the directions. So I'm relying on what they've learned in those classes to bring it in and use it in my class.
So they're super engaged and they're super excited about their learning. That looks very different than I remember American history. How do you incorporate the elements of American history into a project like that?
Well, how we did it is we looked at the California Gold Rush in this case, and the big goal was to understand who really benefited from that, and it was the businesses at the time. So I gave them a ton of primary sources. I gave them, there was like 35 pictures of San Francisco at the time, and they had to go through and look at the types of businesses there were, what kinds of names were there, what did their buildings look like. So they were examining the whole thing as historians. And then we came up with a design style book of what was typical. This is a typical business. This is a typical business name. From that, a lot of vocabulary came out of it, like apothecary, a haberdashery, a lapidary, words that they had never heard before, and then being able to translate that into what would those stores look like today. So connecting the past to the present, but all of it through just historical photographs, and then designing that style guide together as a class. And then after that saying, okay, now we have the style guide of what businesses were named typically, what businesses looked like typically, what buildings looked like typically in San Francisco in the 1850s. Now you're going to work for a company that has to design a model railroad kit with one of those buildings in it.
Great. So I'm going to ask you to reflect on your evolution as a practitioner, as a professional. How would you say you're a different teacher today than you were 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago?
I think definitely when I first started, which was 20 years ago, I was taking kids down to the computer lab to teach them what the internet was. And then we would do exploration of resources, like I would teach them how to use a phone book and an almanac and an encyclopedia. So to go from that to these digital natives know how to access all that information, to just put stuff online and say, okay, well, you've got to create this. They know where to go find it. You know, online, reference these pictures, reference this, reference that. So trusting that they can use the technology, and it's not, I don't have to teach the technology, but I just have to give them access to it, and then they use it just as a regular tool in the classroom. And that's how I'm totally different, is a project like this, with the paint and the wood and the X-Acto knives and all of that going on in my classroom, probably would have freaked me out years ago as a social studies teacher. But just being able to step back and be a facilitator rather than the person who gives them the information.
Well, you've done a great job of transforming the task. I hear you saying incorporate elements of what they're learning into other classrooms, but at the same time, you're also trusting the skills that they bring to the table. And letting go of control of your classroom has really led to a very engaged environment. So thank you for all you've done to transform the task for our Jeffco students.
Thank you.
Thank
Sure.
you.
This is just one more example of transforming the task with the student at the center of the learning. And how did each teacher start this work?
Well, they began small, tested some of their ideas, and then tweaked and changed them over time. We're confident we'll be seeing more examples as this important new chapter in Jeffco unfolds in the months and years to come.
And who knows, maybe we'll be highlighting your work too.